Texas Democrats took a hit in the battle for electoral maps today, just months after the Department of Justice pushed back on the map drawn by the GOP-heavy State House. The Supreme Court threw it out altogether. In their opinion, justices said a district court should take guidance from the state's recently enacted plan in drafting an interim plan. State lawmakers redraw the maps every 10 years based on new census information. The data shows the population grew, giving the state 4 new seats. Most of the new residents were minorities. The Republican map wasn't approved by the Department of Justice. Democrats had one drawn up by judges in San Antonio, but the Supreme Court ruled against it too. Democrats say they'll keep fighting.
No, certainly we're not taking this to loss. Again, the Supreme Court did not approve the legislature's maps, and we don't think that any court ever will.
State Republicans were happy with the court opinion, but noted it wasn't a total win for them. The San Antonio court now has to go back and redraw the maps. And joining me now in the studio live is attorney Chris Gober with Gober Hilgers Law Firm. You've been involved in this case, and the first question I'm going to ask you is this. What about the charge that it doesn't reflect the growing Hispanic population of Texas? And that is a factor.
Well, you mentioned leading in that, a large part of the growth has been minority voters. One thing that hasn't been really set out there for the public in this argument, though, is that the percentage of actual citizen minority voters was actually a much, much larger percentage of the overall voters than has been claimed by the plaintiffs in these cases. And when you actually look at the growth in citizen minority growth, it actually as a whole is pretty well represented proportionally in the state with the seats that are in place.
When you say citizen minority growth, what do you mean?
Well, the difference between, if you're looking at a percentage of Hispanic population versus the percentage of those Hispanic population that are citizens, but then also a voting age population, because a large portion of the Hispanic growth that has occurred in Texas is actually below the 18 years old ages with, the birth of new babies with this, significant population. Well, obviously, they're not part of the voting age population, and they shouldn't be a factor in the growth in the representation of those districts.
Okay, what does this mean? What does today's action mean for me, the Texas voter?
Well, for you, it means that, we're obviously back to the drawing board. Your districts that govern your state house and U.S. congressional maps, they're going to change once again. So just this year, you're already looking at your 3rd plan that is going to govern those elections.
Well, when's there going to be a final plan? I mean, people who are running kind of have to know what district they're running in.
Well, obviously, with the court's decision today, the court saw the urgency in this and was trying to get out an opinion. That way, Texas could continue to utilize its April 3rd primary. I mean, just a couple of hours ago, however, the San Antonio District Court issued an order setting a status conference to be held on February 1st. Well, what that tells me is most likely, should that hold, then the primary election is going to be pushed off again, because in order to maintain that April 3rd date, the district court needed to set forth the plan and order a plan by January 27th. And they're saying, we don't even want the attorneys to come in, and we aren't even planning on talking about this until that deadline is passed.
And real quickly, this April 3rd date, what about charges that this is really going to benefit Republicans because there's going to be lower voter interest at that time in the presidential primaries, which traditionally benefits conservative Republicans?
Well, I think that when you look at politically how the various elections, benefit particular candidates, obviously having a single primary probably helps incumbent, more moderate Republicans more so than, say, Tea Party candidates who are going to be more, generally advocate for more of a bifurcated primary where you have kind of a stronger contingency of voter that shows up for that. But then also, too, I think you're going to have an effect now, depending on what happens in the presidential field. Depending on how late this primary is pushed back, there could be a circumstance where really the presidential election's just out, it doesn't matter anymore, and that could dramatically affect turnout and who shows up to vote.
All right, well, thanks for coming in and helping breaking it down for us. It's a complicated subject.